Tonight, the mind of a mass shooting suspect. What would lead someone to go into a Waffle House restaurant and start gunning down innocent people?
Yeah, people around the country are breathing, must be somewhat at least, a sigh of relief knowing that man has been arrested. He gunned down 4 people in Nashville.
After a massive manhunt, 29-year-old Travis Reinking was arrested not far from his apartment. Police say Reinking was mentally unstable, but there were warning signs, and they were missed. And why?
Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman is the author of Lions and Tigers and Terrorists. Oh my, how to protect your child in a time of terror.
She joined us now to talk about what appears to be a rash of recent attacks by mentally ill people. I'm just thinking of the title of your book, that we have to think about this with our children today.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I was just at the LA Times Book Festival this weekend. I had a booth and I was explaining to parents one after the other why you have to talk to your children about this. It's so that they don't stuff all these feelings down if you don't talk to them and answer their questions, and then it becomes something psychologically much more severe later on.
Dr. Lieberman, we've had this conversation now ongoing about guns and gun control, but you specifically are targeting and are pointing out, you call today's mental health system, you call them wimps.
Yes, I do. You know, this is just like the Parkland school shooter, the Waffle House shooter. What they have in common is that they were both mentally ill, and they both had some contact with the mental health system. And the Waffle shooter, Travis Reinking, apparently was hospitalized, although it's not clear for how long, but he wasn't hospitalized more recently, or else he wouldn't have been able to conduct this shooting. So, yes, I say that they're wimpy because psychiatrists, mental health professionals are afraid these days of hospitalizing people against their will. Because they're afraid of being sued, they're afraid of the patient's advocate rights, patient's rights people coming after them. And, you know, of course we don't want to just lock up anybody for, you know, no good reason. But if someone is a danger to themselves, a danger to others, or gravely disabled, meaning they can't provide food and clothing and shelter for themselves, those are the reasons that you can, in fact, hospitalize someone against their will.
For how long?
Well, it depends. It's a little different in each state, but at least 3 days, and then they get to have a hearing in front of a court administrator of some sort, a judge or someone from the court, to ask for a release if they want to be released. And then the doctor can say, well, no, this person shouldn't be released because he's still a danger to himself or others or gravely disabled. And obviously, both for the Parkland school shooter and now the Waffle House shooter, they were obviously a danger to others.
You did your residency at Bellevue, and so you know what you're talking about. We know you know your stuff.
Yes.
Go ahead, and then I'll ask you another parallel.
When I was a resident, you know, in New York, obviously Bellevue, it wasn't that same kind of mentality. If we thought somebody needed to be hospitalized, we would hospitalize them. And I mean, you know, that was a little while ago and things have changed, but it shouldn't. Obviously things have changed too far. The pendulum has swung too far, and we're just thinking, you know, that, oh, if they say they don't want to be here, then we shouldn't hospitalize them.
Right.
Well, Reinking, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is not just a case, though, of a wimpy mental health system. I mean, with Nicholas Cruz, there were tips the FBI didn't act on.
They
dropped the ball.
Absolutely.
And even with this Reinking, his guns were taken away, and then law enforcement somehow gave them to his father, and then his father gave them back to him.
Yes.
So he could be criminally charged. But look, there's a law enforcement failure. This wasn't just a wimpy mental health institution,
right? Absolutely. In both of these cases, there are other things, issues that are at fault. But, you know, with Reinking, it is amazing. He thought Taylor Swift was stalking him. He heard voices, you know, through his telephone, barking outside his house. He went to Dairy Queen because he thought Taylor Swift was going to meet him there. He went to the White House. He got in trouble for trespassing at the White House. I mean, there were so many instances, at least from 2016 on, so many instances where the police were involved and where he should have been hospitalized and given the right medication and treatment and so on. And this wouldn't have happened.
You know, we're hearing about this now. I got to think the family has dealt with this for perhaps a lifetime of seeing problems with this young person, or perhaps the onset of some kind of mental health illness. What can the family members do who are out there watching, who think, my child might have a problem?
That's a great question.
It is very frustrating for parents of mentally ill children because of this very fact that sometimes they call authorities, like in this case, they called the police, they called the emergency room, and if the emergency room doesn't admit him and sends him back to the family, you know, it's very frustrating. They can't make, especially after 18, they can't make the hospital take him in. And you know, the real problem these days is not keeping patients long enough. It's not that they're being kept too long because of insurance and all that. Patients are sent out way too quickly. So this needs to change. You know, when I think about Bellevue days and how many people might well have been spared, how many victims might well have been spared by the fact that we decided that someone was a danger to themselves or others.
Yeah. Well, certainly a wake-up call. We're looking at things, right? Dr.
Absolutely.
Lieberman, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Dr. Lieberman.
Appreciate it.